This is TruNews, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help us God. I'm Rick Wiles. Relations between Russia and the USA are deteriorating rapidly today. Moscow demanded immediate talks with the U.S. on security guarantees from NATO. A senior Russian diplomat warned that Russia may soon take military action against NATO if the alliance continues to ignore Russia's warnings about weapons and troops in Ukraine. Doc Burkhart and I have more on this very disturbing development on this Monday.
So, Rick,
not the way I like to start out a Monday, Doc.
So you feel like the temperature's risen somewhat here over the past 24 hours?
Very much so. If you go back about a week ago, the last time when we gave an in-depth report about Russia.
Right.
And we read Ambassador Ryabakov's statements.
Yes.
Remember, he said, there's not a lot of time.
Right.
Now, I didn't know what he meant, his concept of time. Was he talking months?
Weeks,
a
days?
Month? It's now starting to look like a week, because here we are just 1 week later. And he is now openly talking about a Russian military response to NATO, because NATO is ignoring them. This is TASS news agency today. Moscow ready for military response if NATO ignores Moscow's concerns.
So this is what Russians are reading today.
Yes.
They're seeing this headline today. They're also seeing this.
We're not seeing it in the U.S., are we?
No, we're not. They're also saying that Russia is ready for a military response if NATO keeps ignoring Moscow's security concerns. Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov said, "I said that we would find forums to respond, including by military. And military technical means if NATO ignores Moscow's concerns again," the high-ranking Russian diplomat told TASS. "I reaffirm this. We will have to balance the activities that are of concern to us because they increase the risk with our countermeasures," Ryabkov said. So what are those activities that they're wanting to balance? They're seeing NATO activity in Ukraine and in other countries. They feel compelled to respond, and they feel like they've given NATO and the United States enough time to make that response. And they haven't yet, have they?
No, not at all. The second story from TASS, the Kremlin considers different options for Russia's response to the deployment of NATO weapons near the borders. And we've got two quotes from that TASS article.
Right, so a variety of options for possible retaliatory steps by Russia are being considered in the event of the deployment of NATO weapons near its borders. This was announced to reporters on Monday by the press secretary of the president of the Russian Federation, Dmitry Peskov, answering a question about the possibility of placing Russian nuclear weapons in Belarus. It goes on to say it is no secret to anyone, of course, the deployment of various types of weapons by NATO on our borders, which may pose a threat to us, will require taking appropriate steps in order to balance the situation. There are a variety of options here, the spokesman said. So that's what we're seeing things stand at the moment, Rick. Are they waiting to see if NATO will deploy nuclear missiles in Ukraine or other countries along its border, or will any military activity of any kind? Because the Russians said they will use nuclear forces.
Yes. Putin gave Biden his red lines and spelled out what it was, which was missiles that could reach Moscow within minutes. The moment they see anything close to it going on Ukrainian soil, Russia's going to act. And I've been saying this for a month or so. I believe that what Russia's going to do is take out NATO and NATO ally weapons and troops in Ukraine, maybe some other surrounding Eastern European countries, and then say to NATO, do you want a full fight? Or you want to stop it now? What do you want to do? But Doc, that can happen. All that can happen within minutes. Minutes. Once the first missiles fly. I mean, there's only minutes where there is this negotiation between generals. Do we want to contain this fight to just Eastern Europe,
Right.
or do we want it to go global?
And what has changed in the calculus of all this is that if NATO does decide to put any kind of nuclear strike missiles in Ukraine, that now shortens that window of response by Russia from 15 to 20 minutes down to 5 to 7 minutes. And the only option that Russia has is to provide countermeasures to that. They can't allow that. 5 to 7 minutes doesn't allow Russia a time to respond. That's why they have to take it out.
Countermeasures means that would imply that they're going to put missiles close to our border and European countries. I don't think that's what they're going to do. I know they're talking about nukes in Belarus and places like that. I really don't think they're going to do it. I think they're going to strike. I think Putin has told Biden, if you put the missiles in Ukraine, I take them out. End of discussion.
Just that
End
simple.
of discussion. And I think that's how close we are right now to a war with Russia. Another story, this is also TASS. Russia calls on the U.S. to stop NATO eastward expansion and draft security treaty. This came out, I read it over the weekend. Russia gave Ryabkov said, we're going to give NATO a proposal.
Right.
No, excuse me. Putin told Biden, you will have a proposal from us within a week. They delivered the proposal on Friday or Saturday.
Okay.
Okay, so Russia laid out their demands, which is basically,
No NATO forces.
no NATO forces, no NATO troops on the Russian border. In return, NATO, Russia, makes its promises not to invade Ukraine and not to fly nuclear bombers near their border and so forth. But the U.S. and the NATO allies have just brushed it off. They gave the Russians disrespect, at least publicly. They didn't show any sign that the NATO countries were open to discussing. In fact, the German foreign minister said, Russia doesn't tell us what to do. We're not bothered by this demand from Russia. But we have some of the details of what is in this. Russian Foreign Ministry published a draft agreement on guarantees of security between Russia and the United States Friday. The document includes 8 articles and covers the main aspects of mutual guarantees of security between Moscow and Washington.
Right. It goes on to say there, first and foremost, the document outlines the principles of indivisible and equal security and non-threatening of each other's security. To this extent, the document includes the following points: rejection of actions and events that affect the other side's security, non-participation in such events, and refraining from supporting them. Besides, the draft agreement mentions the rejection of security measures, be it individual or within an international organization, military alliance, or coalition, that could undermine the base security interest of the other side. And so Moscow offers Washington to refrain from deploying its armed forces and weapons, including within international organizations, military alliances, and coalitions in regions where such deployment could be viewed as a threat to the other side's security, except deployment on one's national territory. And so basically they're making the case here, we can have military on our border, and we're supposed to, just like the United States would on its border. But when you start encroaching on neighboring countries and being a threat to us, we have to respond to that.
And the Russians aren't demanding that Ukraine not have troops on its border.
Right.
They're telling NATO, you can't have troops on Ukraine's border.
Right.
There's
Which
a difference.
makes sense, right?
That's right. What that document is saying is Russia can have troops on the Russian-Ukrainian border. Ukraine can have troops on the Ukrainian-Russian border.
Right.
But you can't have Brits and French and German and American and Canadian troops in Ukraine. That's what the Russians are demanding. And so far, over the past 72 hours, the response of the West has been, like I said, has been disrespect, unless there's something going on behind the scenes that we don't see. But what's coming out of Moscow today doesn't indicate that the West is treating the Russian proposals with any kind of respect today.
They also have an expectation about encroachment of international airspace, too. The parties shall refrain from flying heavy bombers equipped for nuclear or non-nuclear armaments or deploying surface warships of any type, including in the framework of international organizations, speaking specifically about NATO there, military alliances or coalitions in the areas outside national airspace and national territorial waters, respectively, from where they can attack targets in the territory of the other party, the document reads.
Doc, does that read to you like a statement from a belligerent, warlike nation that is eager to invade somebody?
No, it sounds like somebody trying to stop a war from happening to me. I mean, it seems to me like, who have we seen flying heavy bombers? NATO. We've seen them do it. They sent 12 heavy bombers just 2 weeks ago, skirting along within the 12 miles of the Russian border. Remember, the Russians made a big deal about that.
They sure did.
So,
well, where are we at in the United States spiritually? Let's take a look. I'm going to show you 2 articles that will show you the state of America. That is a newly ordained Lutheran church pastor, a drag queen, holding a Bible study for children inside a Chicago church. Doc, does it become, can it get any more blasphemous than this? Doesn't this look like a scene from Sodom and Gomorrah?
yes, it does. So, just to be in a church, at Christmas time, I mean,
They're
nothing.
mocking God.
Yes.
They're mocking God inside Christian churches. They've come. The barbarians have gotten inside. They're not outside the gate anymore. They're inside.
Yes.
They've infiltrated churches. And at Christmas time, you have a sick, demented, mentally ill man dressed as a woman,
And that's what he is.
indoctrinating children inside a church, pretending to be a Lutheran pastor.
And this is endorsed by the Lutherans.
Yes. Do you think Martin Luther would have endorsed it?
Of course not.
What do you think Luther himself would do if he saw that?
He would drive that out of the church.
Physically.
Yes. Grab it by its wig and drag it out the door.
So if that's not bad enough, let's take a look at what's going on in the state of Illinois.
So, state of Illinois, and it's back. So, the Satanic Temple is putting on a holiday display back in the Illinois Capitol Rotunda. Basically, you have the devil in a manger in this holiday display. Once again, mocking Christianity. See what you can get away with, Rick, if you tried to mock Islam or tried to mock Judaism or anything else, but you can mock Christianity and get away with it in this country. That's how far we've gone in this nation.
But this is beyond mocking.
Oh, yeah, it's
This is
blasphemy.
This is a glorification of Lucifer himself
As the Savior.
next to a nativity scene. How wicked is America? And we're going to go to war with Christian Russia? Really? Who's going to pray for us? The Lutheran drag queen pastor? Are we going to bow before that satanic nativity scene in Illinois and ask for help? This is the state of America right now. And few people seem to be grieved by it. Certainly don't see much coming out of the churches in America. I don't know what it takes to get them to grieve. I know what it takes to get them to organize, get out the vote campaigns.
Yes. They'll do that.
But they won't grieve. They won't fast. They won't call prayer meetings and fast and pray over the sin and wickedness of the nation. And we're getting ready to go to war with Russia. I would tell you, you've heard me say this over and over and over, and I'm not trying to destroy your Christmas, but Mr. Putin may destroy your Christmas. So blame it on him, not me. I mean, for over 10 years, 10 or 12 years, I have told this audience that my family, about 10 or 12 years ago, had a series of dreams, and this happened over about 2 years, a series of dreams about war with the United States and Russia, and the war was at Christmas. And so every year, Christmas, I'm watching, and I'm looking, and I'm saying, Lord, is this the year? And this, I'm going to tell you, this year, this week, today, this is the closest I've ever seen us going to war with Russia. The closest. I've seen other times where things were tense, nothing like this. There's a change in the Russian mentality today. It comes across as, we're done, we're tired.
Yeah.
I'm not talking to you anymore.
It does feel that way, doesn't it?
Yes. They've reached the point like, we're done. We're tired of talking. We're tired. The next thing is a punch, and it's going to be a hard punch. It's going to be a hard one. Most likely it'll be an EMP and a tsunami weapon and nukes. The United States could be obliterated in 1 hour. Merry Christmas. Go pray to your satanic nativity scene in Illinois. Call your drag queen pastor at the Lutheran Church. America, you're wicked and evil. You don't even realize how destitute you are as a nation. And you dare to pretend to be a Christian nation. You're not a Christian nation. You're a harlot now. America, I'm talking to America. You're a harlot. You're a whore before God's eyes. And it's only been the mercy of God that He has protected us. But, Doc, just as the Russians are tired of talking, what if God's tired of talking?
Right.
What if God's saying to America, I'm done, I'm tired, I'm done.
I've tried.
Yeah.
I've sent my prophets. I've sent my word to them.
But you become more wicked.
Yes. You make satanic nativity scenes. I mean, well, how much more are you going to do? What else?
Yeah, where
what
do you go from
line
there?
will you cross?
Where do you go from there? How far down into the septic tank can you go? Because America, right now, we're waiting around at the bottom of the septic tank. You know, we're really actually our feet can touch the bottom of the septic tank now. I don't think we can get much. I don't think we can sink any lower.
And we like it there.
Yes.
As a nation.
The country likes it.
So
they like it. And in the Middle East, in the Holy Land, here we are at Christmas time. Look at this story. The Christian leaders in Jerusalem said radical Israeli groups, that means Jews, radical Israeli groups are driving Christians from the Holy Land.
Right. So the Guardian of Christian Holy Places laments unchecked, unpunished attacks as archbishops blame Israeli settlers and the security barrier that's been put up. So Christians in the Holy Land have warned that their communities are under threat of being driven from the region by extremist Israeli radicals, Rick. So Dr. Francesco Patton, the Catholic Church's custodian of the Holy Land, wrote an opinion piece in the Telegraph, and he said, our presence is precarious and our future is at risk.
Can you imagine, Doc, a day when the Zionists own and occupy all the ancient churches in Jerusalem and the West Bank? It's very likely.
Yes.
The way this is going right now. And they do. They want to eradicate Christianity. These dumb, gullible Christian Zionists in America. I don't know how they can be that dumb that they don't realize that the Zionists plan to eradicate Christianity.
Yes. They don't want to partner with it.
No way.
They want to destroy it.
Absolutely. They're using the American evangelicals to advance their agenda. At the same time, they're attacking the Christians in Jerusalem and the West Bank and Bethlehem. Hey, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to give you an update on Joe Biden's Christmas wish to everybody. He says we're going to have a lot of death here. He might be speaking prophetically, and he doesn't know it. Don't go away. We'll be back in a minute.
If this pandemic has taught us anything, being prepared is everything. Heaven's Harvest survival food is not only delicious, it has a 25-year shelf life. Packaged in state-of-the-art sealed Mylar bags, then sealed in grab-and-go food-grade buckets, Heaven's Harvest survival food is second to none. Whether you want to be prepared for 1 week, 1 month, or 1 year, our survival food kits have everything you need. Don't delay. Call or visit heavensharvest.com. Order yours today.
So if we had a war in the next 2 weeks with Russia, I'll say it's not a complete devastation, but significant devastation. And we've already seen the disruptions from just minor disruptions in the supply chain.
Right.
What happens when there's mega-sized disruptions that would take a decade to fix? What if in 2 weeks from now, all food supply disappears?
And that could very well happen. It
Are you
could
ready
very
for
easily
it?
happen.
In 2 weeks from now, there's absolutely no food supplies. None.
Because our warehouses exist on the highways.
Yes.
They don't exist in warehouses. They exist on the road. That's why any disruption in the supply chain now has such ripple effect across the economy. Imagine if a port got shut down, or a major interstate got attacked, or anything along that line. We live on such a precarious edge here in this nation.
Remember,
right now.
2 or 3 weeks ago, we showed the video out of China, the Chinese practicing with small nuke explosions in ports.
Yes, that's right. And we showed the video of that here a couple weeks ago. And so,
I mean, if Long Beach and Houston and Miami and Jacksonville and Baltimore and all along both coasts and the Gulf, if they all disappeared, all those harbors, all those ports disappeared at the same hour, what does America do?
it shuts down. It really just shuts down. We saw what just a minor disruption in the supply chain can have on people, where entire industries get wiped out overnight. Imagine if there's a major disruption, even in one region of the country. Let's say the Northeast got hit by an EMP. It would have such a ripple effect across the entire economy of the U.S. We live on such an edge with food and water and with basic supplies, energy, that any disruption, 3 to 5%, is going to put us over the edge. And there will be a lot of people that will die quickly because of it, because they won't be prepared. They won't be prepared, Rick.
And the weakened state of the nation's morality, you don't have a strong Christian ethic in the nation now to self-govern the people during a crisis.
Yes.
It would just be Wild West. It'd be a Mad Max world where survivors would just be hunting down anybody
that had
something. Yeah, so that can happen in the next 2 weeks. Folks, this is really serious. I promise you there's not one other news program today in the United States of America warning the American people that they have to repent and cry out to God immediately. God told Ezekiel, when you see war coming, and you don't tell the people that war is coming, and those people die in their sins, their blood will be on your hands, Ezekiel. But if you do warn them, and they don't repent, the Lord will spare you, Ezekiel. That's the burden that's on a man of God when the Lord shows him that war is coming. And the Lord put this burden on me over 23 years ago, and I've lived with it every single day. And this is one of those days where it's really on me very heavy. And look, those of you who pray and intercede, let's get busy. The doubters, if we get through this period and there's not a war, the doubters will say, yeah, you guys are crying wolf, nothing was happening. No, you didn't pray, but we did.
Right.
There are saints that do pray. And we'll continue praying. We will pray again. One more time, we will cry out to God for mercy and compassion on us. We don't deserve it as a nation, but God has a remnant here. He still has a remnant in this country. And one more time, we'll cry out to God. Remember us, Lord. Remember the saints that are here. And maybe we'll get another reprieve.
Maybe.
Maybe. I'm not sure. Let's look at what's going on in the COVID side. The White House, they've got season's greetings here, holiday wishes for you. You're all going to die.
Right. So this actually came out last week, Rick, and this is just incredible. We are intent on not letting Omicron disrupt work and school for the vaccinated. You've done the right thing, and we will get through this. For the unvaccinated, you're looking at a winter of severe illness and death for yourselves, your family, and the hospitals you may soon overwhelm.
Who writes
Merry
this?
Christmas, everybody.
Who writes this stuff at the White House?
Despite the fact that here just a week ago, Reuters reported that the majority of Omicron patients and infections right now are among the vaccinated.
Yes. It's the propaganda. This is all about propaganda. The fear campaign, the Omicron fear campaign is on big time around the world. By the way, in Great Britain, you know that the think tank SAGE?
Yes.
That provides advice to the British government. Okay, so one of their lead researchers said in an interview, the British government did not, because the man doing the interview said, from everything that we see, Omicron is a mild infection.
Right.
And people are getting it over it very quickly. But the British government is preparing for worst case scenario. Lockdowns, restrictions on freedoms. And the researcher from SAGE said, they only ask us for the worst scenarios. We know that Omicron is not serious, but they didn't ask us to give them recommendations based on the facts that we have. They asked for worst case scenarios.
Okay.
See what they're doing? It's deliberate. Our scientific advisors, we're following the science. Our scientific advisors told us this many people are going to die. We've got to lock down the society. And yet the researchers saying, no, not really. It's going to pass by. It's not that severe. But they didn't ask us for a scenario based on reality.
They asked for a what if.
What is the worst? Tell us the worst scenario you can give us. So we're paid to give you the worst scenario.
Right. The worst news possible.
Yes.
Instead of the best.
But it's not
news
based
possible.
on, so that way the politicians can say, we're following the science. They're such liars and deceivers. It's all propaganda, folks. So let's look at Joe Biden. This is, we got a little video of him announcing, telling us, this was a couple of days ago, last week, that, hey, you unvaccinated people, you're going to die this winter.
Due to the steps we've taken, Omicron has not yet spread as fast as it would have otherwise done, and that's happening in Europe. But it's here now, and it's spreading, and it's going to increase. For unvaccinated, we are looking at a winter of severe illness and death for unvaccinated. For themselves, their families, and the hospitals they'll soon overwhelm. But there's good news. If you're vaccinated, you have your booster shot, you're protected from severe illness and death, period. Number 2, booster shots work. 3, boosters are free, safe, and convenient. About 60 million people have been boosted. So go get your shot today. Go get boosted if you had your first 2 shots. If you haven't, go get your first shot. It's time. It's time. It's past time.
So for his propaganda photo shoot, he's wearing a mask.
Right.
But when he went shopping,
He's not wearing a mask.
he's not wearing a mask, even though the sign on the door said you have to wear a mask. But doesn't he believe Omicron's coming to get him? He didn't wear a mask. He walked around in the store without a mask. But when he did his propaganda photo op, he's wearing a mask because he's got to tell everybody, you're going to die.
Right.
He lied when he said, the vaccine's going to protect you.
Yes.
That's a lie. Because every day...
He said it multiple times.
Yes. Every day, vaccinated people are getting infected. Most of the infections now are vaccinated people. So he lied. But that doesn't stop him, does it?
No, they keep finding another lie to tell.
He knows that Omicron is mild, but he's going to lie.
Yes.
They have an agenda. Now, there's some stuff going around on the internet today. We've not been able to verify that. I don't know if you saw it, Doc. Somebody claims that they got a glimpse of what he's going to announce tomorrow.
Right.
But again, we've not been able to verify it. It talked about domestic travel restrictions and things like that. But hey, at this point, I don't put anything past him.
No. Would it shock you if tomorrow President Biden, and he's supposed to make an announcement about the new winter campaign, if you will, new winter PR campaign is what it really is, on COVID restrictions. And so what is he going to say? Well, Jen Psaki gives us a little bit of a preview of what he might say tomorrow. Let's listen to her. This is from about an hour and a half ago.
And then there's been pushback from the scientific community on that. So can you help just talk a little bit about what the White House's message on Omicron is? What should the public be thinking? How should we be concerned? What should we do? And then the second one, I'm sorry, I'll ask you after. Go ahead.
Absolutely, Colin. Well, let me first say that the president, as you noted, will be addressing the American people tomorrow, and he'll talk about what to expect as we head into the winter months and detail additional steps that we will be taking. The president has been clear that while vaccinated individuals get COVID he will restate tomorrow, I should say, that while vaccinated individuals get COVID due to the highly transmissible nature of Omicron, their cases will likely be mild or asymptomatic. We continue to see, and our health experts assess, that you are 14 times more likely to die of COVID if you have not been vaccinated versus vaccinated. Importantly, he'll restate we're prepared and that fully vaccinated individuals have the tools to protect themselves with a booster shot and masking where CDC recommends. For those who choose to remain unvaccinated, he'll issue a stark warning and make clear unvaccinated individuals will continue to drive hospitalizations and deaths. That is not trying to scare people, or maybe it is trying to make clear to people in the country what the risks are here of not being vaccinated. What is clear is that we're not in the same place that we were at, and this is something he'll reiterate tomorrow as well, the beginning of the pandemic, thanks to the president's extraordinary work to get over 200 million Americans vaccinated. To be clear, COVID-19 is not the same threat to fully vaccinated individuals that it was in March 2020, and I outlined some of the reasons why. And again, as I said at the top, he will also announce additional steps. So he will outline this clearly tomorrow. He has been candid and he has been direct as he's provided updates to the American public throughout on our steps to address what we know is an unpredictable virus and our fight against a once-in-a-generation pandemic. But that's what people can expect tomorrow.
There's some things I know and things I don't know. Okay, right. What I do know is you can get infected with COVID and survive. I did it.
Right.
Okay, by the grace of God, I was sick with COVID and I survived. A lot of people prayed for me and I came through it. What I don't know is whether I would survive a stroke or heart attack. I've never had a stroke or a heart attack, thank God. Right. But I know that if I get vaccinated, my likelihood of having a stroke or heart attack greatly increases.
Right.
So I've already had COVID and I lived through it. Why would I get vaccinated to find out if I would live through a stroke or heart attack? That's my logic there, yes. Doc.
And the only explanation you could come up with is simply peer pressure. That's it.
Yes.
Because there'd be no other reason, right?
It doesn't make sense. I mean, I already know you can live through COVID. But I don't want to test whether you can live through a stroke or heart attack. I don't want to go there.
Right.
I'd rather just avoid that whole thing. And if I get vaccinated, there's a much higher possibility that I'm going to suffer a stroke or a heart attack. So, Ms. Psaki, why would I stick that stuff in my body? And Johnson & Johnson, I mean, the CDC admits that Johnson & Johnson's vaccine truly is the clot shot.
Right. So this is number 19 for control here. This is out of the Daily Mail. Johnson & Johnson shares nosedive after the CDC announcement that its COVID vaccine can cause blood clots. It's just that simple. You trust the CDC, don't you? You believe the CDC. So when the CDC comes out and says that the clot shot causes clots, you believe them, right?
And here we are in December. It's taken all year for the CDC to finally admit what we all knew throughout 2021.
Right.
But if you put that on Twitter, your account will be suspended. Try to figure out that logic. Why is it that if you post a news article that states the facts, Twitter will suspend your account? Because you have to live in a state of unreality now.
Right.
If you state reality, if you live in reality, you cannot function in the society. So who's insane?
Yeah. If you're locked in an insane asylum, I mean, how do you survive?
Well, that's where we're at now. That is where we're at. And I said 10 years ago that the insane, there was a spirit of insanity. Remember, 2010, Doc, I said on TruNews, a spirit of insanity is spreading across America. It's not spreading anymore. It's taken over. It's in control. Spirit of insanity. You can't reason with these people. You can't use logic. They're mentally ill. They're insane. A delusion. It's a delusion from heaven. Heaven. God has sent a delusion on them. It's a curse on them.
And you know why they have the delusion sent upon them? Because the Bible says because they chose to believe a lie.
Yes.
They knew what the truth was, but they chose to believe a lie.
So then
and God says, okay,
I'm going to make you crazy and you'll never be able to know the truth.
yes.
That is a scary place to be. And we have tens of millions of people in America right now that have crossed that line spiritually. And they're now permanently blinded. They'll never come out of it because they wanted to believe a lie. And now they believe the lies, and God has just sealed their minds. And I don't know how this is going to have a happy ending, except Jesus Christ comes back. I mean, we have gone so far as a nation that I don't see how we turn it around. I just don't.
Well, I've been there for a long time, Rick, myself. I just don't see a response in our nation to God's weeping for repentance over in this nation.
So, Doc, we came across a video last week. We ran out of time last week on Friday, and we did that whole program Friday on I believe it was President Trump and the FBI raids.
Yes.
Okay. And so I saved this for today. This is from the World Health Summit, and you're going to hear some statements made by some speakers that are just astounding in their honesty about what they're doing, which simply confirms what Doc and I have been saying for the past year, what they're doing. But these videos confirm it. They say it with their own lips, that this is a big experiment. This is a global experiment on the human race. So what are we going to see, Doc, in this very first one?
Well, the first one is just simply the opening sequence to the summit itself. But if you really want to get to the meat of the story here with the Bayer CEO, we've got those prepared for us as well right now too, Rick, depending on where we're at with time. So
Okay. Okay, let's watch the first one, and then we'll watch the second parts when we come back from the break.
All right. So this is the opening sequence to the recent World Health Summit, where they're laying out the goals for the future beyond COVID.
Welcome to the World Health Summit. COVID-19 continues to challenge humanity. The pandemic doesn't stop at borders. The only way to get it under control is through international cooperation. The unprecedented speed of vaccine development has been an extraordinary achievement for global health, but challenges remain, like providing access to vaccines for everyone, everywhere, especially in poor and developing countries. Vaccine equity is far more than just a moral imperative. It's also a key prerequisite. The faster we have blanket protection, the faster the pandemic will end. No one is safe until we're all safe. And in the future, other potential pandemics lurk on the horizon. We'll have to prepare. Digital tools and artificial intelligence are already changing the playing field. The new WHO Hub for Pandemic and Epidemic Intelligence in Berlin should help us identify potential new health threats much faster and shut them down. Both Germany and the EU as a whole are eager to assume more responsibility on the global health stage. Through, for example, more investment in the development of health systems all over the planet, and by continuing to play a leading role in implementing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which among other priorities include measures to battle climate change and its consequences. It's potentially the greatest threat our species has ever faced, and will also pose a range of threats to global health. The challenges are all closely linked, and solutions can only come from closely linked networks and partnerships. Like the network of 30 leading health centers and research institutions spread across 20 countries, the M8 Alliance. It's the academic backbone of the World Health Summit, initiated by Charité. Health is the greatest wealth. Global health in the 21st century. The World Health Summit 2021. In Berlin and online.
If this pandemic has taught us anything, being prepared is everything. Heaven's Harvest survival food is not only delicious, it has a 25-year shelf life. Packaged in state-of-the-art sealed Mylar bags, then sealed in grab-and-go food-grade buckets, Heaven's Harvest survival food is second to none. Whether you want to be prepared for 1 week, 1 month, or 1 year, our survival food kits have everything you need. Don't delay. Call or visit heavensharvest.com. Order yours today.
Well, you now know what global health looks like, a vaccination needle. So in this next segment, you're going to hear the president of Bayer Pharmaceutical Division, Stefan Ulrich. And he is going to tell you why the mRNA vaccines are not vaccines, but gene therapy.
Wait a minute. You can't say that, can you, Rick?
I've said it for over a year, and now we have on video a senior executive at Bayer saying precisely what TruNews has said.
Yes.
They are not vaccines, they are gene therapy. They were marketed as vaccines to gain the public trust, which means they lied and deceived the people. And they should be prosecuted as war criminals, crimes against humanity. We need new Nuremberg trials, and these men need to be incarcerated for life or worse. Let's listen to this pharmaceutical pimp brag at this World Health Summit about how they deceive the people of the world.
We're really taking that leap, us as a company, Bayer, in cell and gene therapy, which to me is one of these examples where really we're going to make a difference, hopefully, moving forward. There's some, ultimately, the mRNA vaccines are an example for that cell and gene therapy. I always like to say, if we had surveyed 2 years ago in the public, would you be willing to take gene or cell therapy and inject it into your body, we would have probably had a 95% refusal rate. I think this pandemic has also opened many people's eyes to innovation in the way that was maybe not possible before.
All right, so we're going to pull up a quote here. This is number 22 for control. So the president of Bayer's Pharmaceuticals Division told international experts during a global health conference that the mRNA COVID-19 shots are indeed cell and gene therapy marketed as vaccines to be palatable to the public. Stefan Ulrich, president of Bayer's Pharmaceuticals Division, made these comments at this year's World Health Summit, which took place in Berlin in October, hosted 6,000 people from 120 countries. Ulrich told his fellow international experts from academia, politics, and the private sector that the novel mRNA COVID vaccines are actually cell and gene therapy that would have otherwise been rejected by the public if not for a pandemic and favorable marketing. He went on to say, "We are really taking that leap to drive innovation, us as a company Bayer in cell and gene therapies. Ultimately, the mRNA vaccines are an example for that cell and gene therapy." As you saw in the video, he went on to say, I always like to say, if we had surveyed 2 years ago in the public, would you be willing to take a gene or cell therapy and inject it into your body? We probably would have had a 95% refusal rate, stated Ulrich. Our successes over these 18 months, the duration of the COVID pandemic, should embolden us to fully focus much more closely on access, innovation, and collaboration to unleash health. They're going to unleash health, Rick, for all, especially as we enter, on top of everything else that is happening, a new era of science. A lot of people talk about the bio-revolution in this context, continued the businessman. And so
A bio-revolution.
a bio-revolution.
But he admitted in that video, we heard him say that it's not a vaccine, it's gene therapy.
So let's call it gene therapy from now on, because we're only quoting the CEO of Bayer.
Yes.
He would know.
So it's gene therapy. And he said, if we tried this 2 years ago, 95% of the world's population would have refused it.
And he's exactly right.
Yes.
2 years ago, if someone would have said to the majority of the population of the world, hey, would you take something that would manipulate your genes? Well, what's their response going to be? Well, absolutely not. But throw a pandemic in there.
And then call the gene therapy a vaccine.
Right.
And the people line up to get it. So those of you who have been, quote, vaccinated, you were not vaccinated. You were injected with a gene therapy, and it has altered your body's genes. That's the fact. And you got to deal with it. You have to deal with what you did to your own body. I don't know how to reverse it. God can do anything and all things. You can ask him, but I don't know. Your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. And you allowed these mad scientists to inject something into your body that changes the genes that God made for you.
Right. And they're not going to stop here, Rick.
Oh, no.
They are emboldened, he said, in that quote. They are emboldened. Let's listen to him say it in his own words here.
Our successes over these 18 months should embolden us to really focus much more closely on access, innovation, and collaboration to unleash health for all, especially as we enter, on top of everything that's happening, really into a new era of science. A lot of people talk about the bio-revolution in this context. So we've heard from Bill a lot about access, so I'm not going to repeat some of the examples that Bill has rightfully, I think, has given. But health for all definitely means patients around the world that get access to medicines at a price that they can afford, and making use of partnerships to ensure our efforts are sustainable over the long term.
They're going to unleash health, Rick.
Yes.
They're going to unleash hell is what they're going to do.
Yes. And who's his friend, Bill?
Bill Gates is who he's talking
course.
about. Bill had just had a meeting with Mr. Ulrich just a few moments before coming on stage here.
If I recall my World War II history, Bayer Pharmaceutical, they had a friendship with the Nazis.
They sure did. So, hey,
It's a small world.
you know, Mr. Ulrich there spoke about a biorevolution, and you picked up on this
Yes.
the other day.
Yes.
And it was a new term for me. What did you find out about
Well,
it?
the same thing. So I found a company, McKinsey and Company, and they have this report, The Biorevolution, Innovations Transforming Economies, Societies, and Our Lives.
So biology is going to change economies?
A merger of biological sciences with pharmaceutical companies, with technology. It is a revolution where there's gene therapy, implants in your body. The whole thing is a total revolution. It's going to change the economies of the nations, the societies of the nations, and your physical life.
And they actually have their own definition of it here from McKinsey and Company. So when you hear these scientists and CEOs talk about the biorevolution, now you can refer back to this. This is a confluence of advances in biological science and accelerating development of computing, automation, and artificial intelligence, fueling a new wave of innovation. This biorevolution could have significant impact on economies and our lives, from health and agriculture to consumer goods and energy and materials. And so this is the new religion.
It is.
This is the new religion that they're
And the
touting.
scientists are the high priest,
Yes.
and they are reimagining Genesis.
That's at the key of this,
That's
isn't it?
really what it's about. It is to make, through science and technology, make a new world to compete with God. And the plan is to eradicate everything that God made and replace it with something man-made.
As in the days of Noah.
Yes. I saw an article today in the Times of Israel about a new breakthrough in Israel in laboratory-grown meat. Israel is at the forefront of fake meat. Look, in a matter of years, a few years, real food may be very difficult to find. Perhaps by the time the decade is over, it may be impossible to find real food. Because their plan is to destroy everything.
Right, including agriculture, everything.
Do you know how easy it is for them to kill off all crops? I mean, these are mad scientists. If they can form a biological weapon in a laboratory that gets in your body, they can also create a biological weapon that gets in plants and trees and just kill off everything God made.
And reimagine it.
And they reimagine it in a laboratory. This is a sci-fi nightmare that we're in. And there's only one explanation. Satan has been turned loose from the abyss. He's roaming the world to deceive the nations, and Christ is coming soon. You got a better explanation? That's mine. Okay? I'll get emails saying, Rick, the devil isn't released until the end of 1,000 years. I'm not.
Well, who's causing all this trouble then?
I'm not a dispensationalist. I don't know how to get that across to people. I don't believe in dipsyism, dispensational, premillennial, pre-tribulation Zionism. I don't believe in it. That's all Darby stuff. That's Dallas Theological Seminary doctrine. I don't believe it. All right? But I'll get the emails tomorrow. Rick, you don't know what you're talking about. The devil won't be released for 1,000 years. No, he's out now.
So you won't be looking for the devil for a while.
He's
then, right?
out right now. He's been released from the abyss, and he is deceiving the nations right now. If this isn't the deception of nations, what is it?
Right.
The nations are being deceived right now in front of us. The good thing is Christ is coming.
Amen.
I mean, we're all getting tense and nervous and anxious watching the the rise of the fourth beast. And this thing is ugly. It's got teeth of iron. It does devour. It makes war against the saints. Those aren't just words in the Bible. That stuff's real. That's going to happen, and it is happening right now. We're going to get through it. The Lord said, endure to the end. And that's what I'm going to do, and you're going to do it too. And we're going to help each other. We're going to encourage each other. We're going to lift up each other. We're going to take care of each other. We're going to endure to the end. Christ is coming. That's a guarantee. You can take that to the bank. Christ is coming. He is definitely coming back for his church, and he's going to destroy those who destroy the earth. The very first thing the angels do when they get here is that they round up the wicked. You know, Tim LaHaye wrote a book, Left Behind. You know, you don't want to be left behind. Oh, yes, you do. The first who are taken are the wicked.
Yes.
Jesus said
read the
so.
Bible.
It's in the Bible. He says, first, they will gather the wicked.
Yes.
Okay? See, once you start just reading the Bible for what it says, all this other stuff that we've been taught just falls apart. The whole narrative collapses. At the rapture thing, all of it, it collapses. Just believe what Jesus said.
Yes.
And by the way, final day, we're down, just a handful of books. So we're going to cut it off very, very soon. But a new edition is coming out. The second edition will be here, God willing. It'll be here in the month of January if we get through Christmas as a nation. So the second edition of Final Day will be out, and we're going to have a paperback version also. So we'll have a hardback and a paperback and an e-book and an audiobook. Audiobook probably won't be till March. E-book will be sometime in January, and the hardback will. That one.
That's the problem.
We're having problems with the hardback. The publisher who printed it the first time, they're telling us May or June. So we're searching for other vendors who can print the hardback at a reasonable price, but we will have a paperback out very, very soon in January. Let's see. Mr. Biden won a victory.
Yes.
On his vaccine mandate. The 6th District Court of Appeals reinstated Biden's vaccination mandate for all companies with 100 or more employers. I've got a quote I want you to read.
This is from the decision.
Yeah, this is the court. This is the judge's, just the opening paragraph of the judge's statement about why she reinstated the vaccine mandate.
So recognizing that the old normal is not going to return, employers and employees have sought new models for a workplace that will protect the safety and health of employees who earn their living there. In need of guidance on how to protect their employees from COVID-19 transmission while reopening business, employers turn to OSHA, the federal agency tasked with assuring a safe and healthful workplace.
But look at that. The judge said, I'm recognizing that the old normal is not going to return. Well, Judge, who are you to decide what kind of reality we live in? Maybe I like the old normal. Maybe I don't want to be in your new normal. This judge is just decreeing.
Yes.
We're not going back to what we used to have. Says who? Says the federal judge? Well, anyhow, this thing's going to the Supreme Court. That's the bottom line.
Right.
That's going to be risky. If the Supreme Court rules in favor of Biden, you now have a ruling from the highest court in America that says they can force you to do anything.
That's right.
You get this? If the Supreme Court rules for Biden, there is no limit to what they will do to you. Because if the government has the authority to order you to be injected with something against your will, there's no limit to what they will do to you and your children and your grandchildren.
Right.
But this is going to the Supreme Court, that's for sure. The Christian Post reporting that some major Christian ministries are asking the Supreme Court to stop the Biden gene therapy mandate. And those ministries include Daystar Television Network, the American Family Association, and a few other major ministries because they have over 100 employees.
Right.
I want to jump down to number 34. This is Pastor Robert Jeffress, senior pastor of First Baptist Dallas. He is a big fan of gene therapy injections in his church congregation. Pastor, it's not a vaccine, Pastor Jeffress. You are telling your congregation to accept gene therapy. Anyhow, here's Pastor Bob Jeffress telling his congregation, let them inject that gene therapy into your bloodstream.
We need to be together with one another, with families, friends, and churches in order to be emotionally and spiritually healthy. And there's an answer to that. There's a way to accomplish that and mitigate this real threat, and that's by getting vaccinated. I know vaccinations don't guarantee you won't contract the virus, but it pretty much guarantees you're not going to be hospitalized or die. I mean, this coming Sunday, we're having Christmas at my church, First Baptist Dallas. We're going to have a full crowd. President Trump's going to be there. But the reason I feel confident in doing that is because most of our people have been vaccinated. And the Bible has a good word. It says, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and of a sound mind. And I think the best formula for dealing with this is to trust God, yes, but use your sound mind, use good judgment, get vaccinated, and enjoy being back together with one another.
So First Baptist of Dallas, one of the biggest churches in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex.
Yes.
And most of his congregation is vaccinated.
So are the unvaccinated not welcome at his church?
That's a good question. I'd like to find out from Pastor Jeffress, or maybe he segregates the unvaccinated from the vaccinated.
Do they check at the door that you've been vaccinated?
I don't
like
know.
to know.
Some churches are doing that. Some
Yes. churches
are prohibiting, some Catholic churches are prohibiting unvaccinated people from coming in. Maybe First Baptist will go back to the old Baptist method of segregation. They did it well in the 19th century based on color. So maybe they'll do it now based on your vaccination record. But it's a shame. I have to wonder how many members of his congregation will still be alive 2 years from now.
Right.
You sent them to their death, Pastor.
With
You
gene
gave them the
therapy.
clot shot.
Yes.
And you changed their genes. You changed them. Okay?
Rem-
Where is Franklin Graham right now? He was like Bob Jeffress out there promoting it, but Mr. Graham is now suffering with heart inflammation.
Right.
Where did he get the heart inflammation? From the vaccine he received. I don't know what to say about it other than, people are doing what they want to do,
Yes.
in spite of all the evidence that they are accepting a gene therapy into their body and it could kill them. They're still doing it. What can you say to people?
No, you can't say anything to people when they're deluded, Rick. So, Pastor Jeffress mentioned that President Trump was going to visit First Baptist Dallas, and he did. So President Trump was at First Baptist on Sunday, and he was also at the American Airlines Center on Sunday as well with Bill O'Reilly. Bill O'Reilly's doing his history tour right now. So he and President Trump appeared together on stage. While he was there, President Trump made it very clear that he was very proud of his efforts at Operation Warp Speed and the implementation of vaccines during his administration. Hear it in his own words as he tells people, hey, you're here because of me. I saved 100 million people easily. Listen to this.
But look, we did something that was historic. We saved tens of millions of lives worldwide. We, together, all of us, not me, we got a vaccine done, 3 vaccines done, and tremendous therapeutics like Regeneron and other things that have saved a lot of lives. We got a vaccine done, in less than 9 months that was supposed to take from 5 to 12 years. Because of that vaccine, millions and millions of people, I think this would have been the Spanish flu of 1917, where up to 100 million people died. This was going to ravage the country far beyond what it is right now. Take credit for it. Take credit for it. What we've done is historic. Don't let them take it away. Don't take it away from ourselves. You're playing right into their hands when you sort of like, oh, the vaccine. If you don't want to take it, you shouldn't be forced to take it. No mandates, but take credit because we saved tens of millions of lives. Take credit. Don't let them take that away from you.
Okay, so the president made news.
Do you agree with that? Right?
Both the president and I are vaxxed, and did you get the booster?
Yes.
I got it too. Okay, so...
Don't. That's all. There's a very tiny group of it.
Except it wasn't a tiny group. There were quite a few people there that responded to that, Rick, about them being boosted. And both Bill O'Reilly and now President Trump says, yeah.
So here we are now, Doc, at the end of 2021, and all the evidence that it's not a vaccine.
It's gene therapy.
It's gene therapy. It's giving people heart attacks, strokes, paralysis, a lot of very severe side effects. And Donald Trump is still promoting it and bragging that he is the father of the vaccine.
Right.
All right. That's the bottom line. He isn't saying, hey, I got hoodwinked. Fauci lied to me. I thought we were making a vaccine. I didn't know it was gene therapy. Don't do it. Don't let them put it in your body. That's not what Donald Trump is saying. He's saying, you get it, I've got it, Bill O'Reilly's got it, and I don't want to hear you complaining about it.
Now, I've been triple jabbed, so I'm proud of it.
Well, that's the guy.
And he had COVID.
Yes.
And he had COVID.
Yes. And he still got vaccinated.
And he had COVID and took the mice therapy, the humanized mice therapy.
And we heard Bob Jeffers say earlier, it's not going to prevent you from getting COVID. Well, then why are you taking it?
It's like saying, hey, the umbrella's not going to work out in the rain. Well, why have an umbrella then? I mean, if it's not going to work.
Yeah. I mean, if it just collapses, then why would you take it out there?
Right. It's useless. But you can't reason with people who are deluded.
It's a delusion. It's a spiritual delusion. Look, there's one thing we have to consider, and that is God has answered our prayers.
What do you mean by that?
The saints, the faithful, have been crying out to God for years to save the country from the wicked. We have to consider the possibility He's cleansing the country.
Wow. I hadn't thought about that.
We got to consider the possibility. He gave them a delusion. They're killing themselves. You got to consider that possibility.
I hadn't even thought about that aspect.
The Lord may be answering our pleas for help, because I've been praying for years. God, this thing's too evil. It's too big. Your people who are called by your name, we can't stop it. We've tried everything. We can't stop it. You have to intervene. Maybe you did intervene.
Like Haman's gallows.
Yes.
Wow.
Got to consider the possibility that he's cleansing the country so that the drag queen pastors at Lutheran churches are gone. The homosexual activists are gone. The pornographers are gone. Okay? The mockers are gone. There's a possibility. 2 to 3 years from now, we may not recognize this country, but it may be purged. They were planning a purge, but maybe they purged themselves.
Wow.
All right. I'm going to leave that as the last word and let you ponder on that. Love you always. I'll be back here with Doc tomorrow. God bless. We'll see you.
God bless you.